Welcome back to another episode of Soul Over Matter podcast. I'm your host, Michelle, and today I have a very special guest, Ashmi Pathela. She is an artist and an author, as well as just a leader of this age. I've really resonated with so much of her messages and just her energy and her resonance. So I'm really excited to have her on and to have all of you listen in and hear our flow and our conversation. So Ashmi, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Michelle. I'm so excited to be here.
Me too. How are you feeling today?
Really good. I mean, every day there's something new going on, or I'm shifting within me. And yeah, I've been through an intense month, but feel like I'm coming out on the other side and feeling way more grounded and in my heart. So it's perfect timing as always.
Perfect timing as always. You are right. I know it's like who are we today? Who are we in this now
Yeah,
moment?
exactly.
Beautiful. So, yeah, we're just going to flow. What can you when you think of the times now, like what is coming through for you right now? Like in this now moment as well. What is coming through for you?
Mm,
What is alive for you?
beautiful. I feel like I've been going through so many cycles of trusting and surrendering to my heart, letting my heart take the lead over my mind. And, like you can conceptually understand what that means, but to actually embody it and practice it every day is another thing. And as we unplug from the matrix, the conventional ways of being, um, in the beginning of my awakening, I was really focused outward, like looking for confirmation outside of me, listening to different videos or channelers, wanting to know what's going on to make sense of what I'm feeling inside. And even, trying to find my own words to conceptualize what's going on. But then now I feel like I'm trusting myself more and allowing my own voice to shine through. And that comes through in the writing I share, but also through my self-talk and listening to what my body wants, what my heart is saying versus what my mind is telling me. And I mean, right now it's mainly about letting go of the hustling and worrying of, I need to worry about this. I need to make sure I control that in my reality. Focusing on the to-do list and actually just letting that go into this state of trust where it's like everything I'm experiencing is perfect, and um, I will be guided. Every step will unfold. The more I trust and let go, it will become easier. And trusting that my higher self or my heart or the universe, whatever you want to call it, is guiding me. And there's nothing I need to try to force or control, because the mind often is used to controlling things because that's how we've kind of survived until now. But yeah, it's really interesting to let go of that need, and see what happens when I trust.
So beautiful. Yes, it's definitely surrender and learning, right? The unlearning, the
Yeah.
unbecoming
Mm.
in this society that we've lived in. Can you tell us more about where that began for you, where that awakening started stirring within you these new beliefs, these new thought patterns?
Yeah, it's so strange to pinpoint because I feel like we are born pretty connected to source and our higher self and the universe. And then through conditioning and indoctrination and just taking on the fears of our parents and even our surroundings, we kind of lose that spark. So I've always felt really connected to that. And actually, right now, I'm doing this 8-day inner child healing activation, and it's helping me see and feel into my childhood self, even from conception in the womb till age 7 especially. And yeah, I've really felt connected to the magic of the universe and my heart and that light in me that was so excited to come to earth and be a human. Like, we often forget what that feels like, but I had so much curiosity and awe for life. And growing up, I felt really connected to like my magic and ability to manifest. So I played with that a lot as a kid and even in school. But through my career in Silicon Valley and also maybe college, um, I lost a huge part of my self confidence or that connection. There were points in my life I was really shy, actually, and um, really low self esteem, judgmental about myself, and yeah, not in a good place in terms of actually loving myself as I am. I felt like I needed to achieve and prove myself and continue climbing the corporate ladder to feel good enough. And I didn't even know it, that's what I was doing. But a lot of our kind of needs as children keep playing out as adults. So yeah, so I really lost that spark. But my journey actually kick-started when I left Silicon Valley in 2017, and I was completely burnt out, and my soul was telling me there's so much more to life than this. And I just followed that nudge and started traveling the world. I was still kind of keeping a foot in the door of Silicon Valley because it was felt like a safety net at the time. So I was still consulting and freelancing, but that was when I started meditating more, journaling, writing for myself, painting, and it really helped me remember who I actually was underneath all these labels, like we were talking about identities that we take on. Who are you and what's your essence and who do you want to be or how do you want to feel in life? And those questions really brought me back to starting to make decisions in alignment with my soul and my heart instead of what I thought I should be doing. And it was super scary because there's so many self-doubt and voices of fear coming up. But um, with every step I took, the more trust I gained in myself and the more trust I gained in my path. And there were just so many undeniable synchronicities that kept me going in that direction and seeing that there's so much more magic. And it was almost like that taking that leap of faith was my own experiment, because it was like, I want to know the magic of the universe. I want to see the power of my heart. And this is worth all the risk to just taste that. Yeah. So that helped me keep going, because it was like, well, if it doesn't work out, at least it's a funny story. And then I can go back. Like, there's actually no real risk. So.
Right, a good story to tell our grandkids one day.
Right.
If it didn't quote unquote work out,
Work
right?
out. Yep.
That's another right, like quitting in society is seen as wrong, right? Or failure. Like, what can you say on that, on quote unquote quitting Silicon Valley, quitting your cushy job and trusting that heart-led intention?
Yeah, there's a lot of FOMO that comes up because I had such a beautiful career in Silicon Valley and an amazing position. I could have kept going up, and it's almost like leaving that world. It was like unplugging from that matrix. It's like a matrix within the matrix. But leaving even that consciousness, I could feel it start to leave my being. And when you're plugged into it, you don't realize how much it dominates the way you think, what you think you need in life, the way you think you need to act, because you probably wouldn't even recognize me the way I am now in Silicon Valley. Just the way I talk, the way I think, the way I dressed, like everything was so different. And leaving it, quitting, like you say, it was more about like letting go of the need to be who I thought I wanted to be. So it's almost, of course, there's societal pressure and family pressure, but the biggest thing was like that was my dream at one point in my life. And that was the identity that I so made my own, you know, and letting that go was like saying no to my old self, or like my childhood or adolescent self's dreams. Um, it's really confronting because you feel like that's what you wanted. And all of a sudden, what is it that you want to be? There's this whole void. And it's hard to kind of picture yourself, even, you know, when you know it's not for you, but you don't know what's next either. So trusting that leap of faith into the unknown when you have no proof that it will work out, that you can support yourself, that it will even work. So yeah, it was very scary. And the battle of your inner demons is bigger than any other perceived battle out there. Yeah, so it's about facing yourself over and over again. And it's not like the doubt ever goes away. It's like with every little step you take, new doubts and new fears will come up, and it never ends. But at least now I feel like I'm on the other side where I can see it and not identify with the doubt. I can just see it for what it is. And I know that it's just showing me another fear in me. And I can just come back to my heart and just trust myself more than before. So, yeah, hopefully that gives people hope on their path as well.
I love that.
Mm.
Yes, that grief. Can you talk about the grief that comes with what we thought we wanted, right? And that were our dreams, or who we, I always say, like, the avatar we were playing, right, at
Uh-huh.
that time of our lives. Can you talk about that grief and that confrontation more?
Mm. Yeah, it is like a death. Often people talk about awakening as, you know, it's multiple deaths of your ego self. And if you identify with your ego self or your human self, it feels like you're actually dying. So, um, you know, the more you do this, you realize it's just another layer of your ego, your mind that's dying off. And you're actually coming back into your true essence in your heart. And there's nothing you're actually losing, you're just gaining who you are. But when you're in that, for me, I had so many days where I was just curled up on the floor, like, you know, just fetal position, asking my partner, you know, what am I doing? Is this okay? Like, oh no, like it was just so, and it felt like that was the cycle for 2 years straight. Where I was just paralyzed with doubt one day, and then the next day I'd feel full trust and excitement for my dreams, and yes, I'm doing it. And then, yeah, I just got so tired of that cycle. Um, but the more you connect with your heart, the more you find ways to start feeding that inner child self. That can also become your greatest ally and pull you forward with excitement. So I feel like fear and excitement are very similar. It's just two ends of that spectrum. And you can, you know, get lost in the fear, or you can allow the excitement to pull you forward. And for me, the motto was, what is my highest excitement right now? In every moment, can I follow my highest excitement and tune into my intuition and listen to what my gut's telling me instead of what the mind thinks? And the more you do that, the more you've opened to the flow of synchronicity, opportunities, ideas, things that make you feel alive. And yeah, I told myself that the path of excitement is the path of my higher self. It's the path of my soul. This excitement, it's an emotion, but it's kind of like a compass. It shows you which way to go, and suffocation and anxiety shows you which way your soul doesn't want to go. So if you just listen to that, it's quite easy to see what path to follow, even if it doesn't make sense at the time. It kind of makes sense looking back.
Yes, that's what I was thinking, right? It's that a lot of times intuition doesn't make sense, right, to
Mm-hmm.
our human brains, and we fear that because we've been taught to follow our logic, not our heart.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And the mind will say all kinds of things like, oh, you can't make money doing that. Or I took the leap from being a Silicon Valley executive to becoming an artist and writer, right? So that's such a crazy leap. And this idea of the starving artist, or, that stereotype, it did come up a lot. But at the same time, I kind of looked at people who I admired who were following their heart, and many were creatives, and I love bringing that essence in your soul out into physical form, that state of flow, that aliveness. I was really craving to find that again in myself. So just with little steps, it kind of unfolded for me, and actually becoming an author and artist, it kind of fell into my lap almost, because I wasn't really trying to do that from the mind. I was just sitting and allowing myself to be and deprogram and unlearn this hustle mindset. So for 3 months, I actually dropped all my projects and I didn't do anything except for focus on my spiritual journey and my inward journey. And in that time, the idea for the book came, and it hit me so hard, and it just made me start crying, and my heart was so open. And it was the creation that I wanted to hold in my hands and give to my children. And it wasn't from the mind. So that's what I trusted and kept going with. And the momentum flowed from there.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, that's how you know it's not from our ego, right? It's not for gain, monetary gain, or all these belief systems that we're deprogramming from it. It's just sitting and closing off those distractions. Can you talk more about your book?
Yeah, so it is a book with art and words, and it's about the awakening. So it's called Awakening the Heart of Humanity. And I wanted something that captures the energy of these times, and also my excitement, that memory of coming into this life as a soul for this amazing time of change. And right now, there's so much fear, I think, both in the not to divide, but people who are awake and aware of what's going on, and also people who aren't. There's so much division and fear and worries about where that world is headed. And I feel like we forget how much control or power we have within ourselves to create our reality and remember why we're here. So that book is just a little activation, I feel like, into your own soul's remembering. And yeah, it just came through me. A lot of these paintings were in the book were painted about 2 years prior. So it feels like going back to following your highest excitement. When I was making these paintings, there was no agenda to put it in a future book. But just by doing that, just by following every day's little nudge, it ended up turning into something much bigger.
Yeah, it's like your soul knew the not
The
the end
plan.
result, but then,
Yeah.
your soul's like, we're gonna do this. Just wait till you see what happens from it.
Yeah.
And that's the exciting part, right? It's we're taught to be so goal oriented, so outcome or monetary based, or you know just achieve. And I love what you said before. It's really just coming back to who we were as children. Like, were you a writer and an artist when you were a child?
Yeah, isn't that funny? It was my first favorite kind of hobbies. And I even have a journal entry from age 8 where it says, I am an artist and author as my future vision. And I didn't even remember it until a few years ago. I stumbled upon it and I got full body goosebumps because, wow, the power of your words and writing down your dreams in the present tense is just incredible. And so many times it actually has worked for me. I mean, you write it down, you feel it, and then the synchronicity or opportunity comes in, and it feels like you're collapsing timelines where something will come in a way completely unexpected and crazy, but it all makes sense and it feels right, and you get those goosebumps. So I use writing as a tool both to connect with my higher self or my heart, and kind of open to those messages or the higher perspective, but also to script or envision my future in the present tense.
So powerful. Yes. I always say our words are spells.
Exactly.
And again, right, it's this power of co-creation with the universe or God or higher self, whatever we like to term it. And it's, yeah, it's realizing how magical we are and how much we have a say in what happens in our lives, right? So much of the time we're just giving away our power to people or situations or jobs. And when we start making space for that, for our soul, our essence to come through, that's when the magic really begins happening again. Because I always say it's like we start out like that, right? Like you literally wrote, I am an author, I am an artist. And like little 8-year-old Ashmi was like, yeah, I know what's going
Yeah.
on. And I can resonate with being
Mm.
shy too, right? It's
Mhm.
you close off because you're like, I can't trust the world. Everyone's telling me that I'm wrong or that I'm too much or I'm not enough or fill in the blank, and that becomes our inner critic. And it's healing that
Yeah.
inner criticism, those beliefs and layers of fear, like you said, of fear.
Mm.
And what can you say to people? Because I really feel, I mean, there's more people waking up each and every day. And you've been on this journey a few years. I've been on this journey for a few years. What can you say to the people who are just beginning to realize that their reality is not what they thought it was?
Yeah, I mean, it's so scary. You would never think this is what would happen in your whole life. So it can feel like the rug is just being pulled from under your feet and everything is upside down. And for me, I just felt like if I can't trust all the things I've put my trust into, and even my own self, my own mind, what is there to trust? And you could feel really lost. So and there's so much information out there that you could kind of overload with learning everything again and going through all the rabbit holes. But for me, what really helped was balancing that with connecting to my own spirit, connecting to nature, sitting in the sun, meditating. Um, for me, the dark night of the soul wasn't as scary. It was terrifying, but it wasn't as scary as it could have been, because as much as I was opening up to the shadows of the world and the corruption and fear out there, I was also opening up to the light and the magic of the world, and reading books that uplifted me. Yeah, just about ascension and awakening and our amazing vessels, and how much we are actually shifting our consciousness and our power. So yeah, following my curiosity with learning about that as well helped me feel empowered, instead of like a victim. Yeah, during one of the most crazy years of my life. Yeah, it's so intense. But right now, there's way more resources. Millions of people are awakening and going through the same thing, or millions have also awakened in the last year. So there's so many more people around you to help you through this. And a lot of people will say, well, I'm the black sheep of the family and I'm an outcast in my own circles. But online, you'll find pockets of communities, or there's so many gatherings and events, and freedom rallies, ways to start building your tribe and finding like-minded people. I feel like that helps a lot from, yeah, the trauma of not being accepted and seen or even loved by your own family, especially those who feel like they're in a different world, and you are literally in a different world.
Yeah, beautiful. Is that what you experienced? Did you feel like you weren't accepted by your friends and family?
For me, luckily, I was going through this while traveling. So in a way, I had left that bubble. I feel like it's so much harder where if you're in under the same roof or in the same circles or going to the same workplace. I guess for me, my path was about self-isolating and going into my own solo travels. But I did feel like a lot of my friends couldn't understand what I was going through, and I didn't really try. I was just, yeah, allowing them to have their journey and really giving space for me because you're going through such a metamorphosis. It's almost like you're a caterpillar cocooning, and you do need to protect your energy during many of these shifts. So for 4 months, I was in Bali. Right after my dark night of the soul, I landed in Bali, which was such a nurturing energy and way more like-minded people. But I deleted Instagram off my phone. So I actually had no noise from the old social circles. And I wasn't even documenting and sharing my journey either. So yeah, that was really nice for that portion of my life. And when I felt more grounded and in my heart, I was able to come back to my family and friends. And it's not actually about trying to convince them of what you know or try to change their mind. Because if you're in the head, you're only going to hit their head and it's going to be an ego battle. And I'm sure so many people have learned this lesson by now. But when you're in your heart, which my journey really brought me into feeling compassion for myself and others, I actually was able to show up as my true essence, I guess, or yeah, more loving self, less irritable, less triggered self. And my family could see the shift in me. There were no words needed to explain my journey. They could just see that I'd gone through a lot of changes, and they loved and accepted me as I am for that. So yeah, I feel like that's a massive lesson to come back to the heart and to love, because we actually are all so much more similar than we think. People have different beliefs because they have different information and experiences, and they might not be able to see what you believe. But deep down, most of us want our family and friends to be happy, healthy, thriving. We all want the same thing for the world. And we often forget that in the division.
Yes, I feel like that
Mm.
message is so important for those that, yeah, feel, they want to be understood by everyone. And it's still coming from that, just see me. But it's so much deeper than that, right? Like you said before, how you can be sitting, and now this is more prevalent than ever. We can be sitting right next to someone and have a completely different perception and frequency than them and world than them. And
Mm.
it's what I like to say too is having compassion for those who may not be conscious or awake, because we were once them, right? We were once,
Exactly.
right?
Mm.
So it's having it's yeah, it's just coming back to the heart and speaking your truth, and also what you said of just being who you are, and people can feel that. They might not understand it, but they know that your changes are for your highest good. Yeah, so
Mm-hmm.
beautiful.
Yeah. And letting others have their journey. So often we feel like we need to save them or change them or awaken them. And that's a big part of this journey where you go through that phase. But I'm starting to see that everyone has their own timing for when they wake up. Like their soul is very awake. It's not like, it's just the human that has often forgotten, but everyone has chosen their path and their way in this. And if you try to, like, you can speak your truth, but if you try to force yourself or your views on someone else, it's not really going to change them unless they're already open to it and already on the path to it. So allowing others to almost learn their lessons and go through their challenges as well, um, trusting that they are also guided, and that they are also held and protected just as you are.
So important. I feel like that's going to be important for those listening to hear that, yeah, we're all on this journey, and no one's above or below anyone else. It's just, I always say, just stay in your lane, right? And
Mm.
speak your truth, right? Can you talk more about your beautiful channeled messages, your Instagram posts, of
Mm.
just, yeah, where they come from, and how you allowed yourself, not allowed, but how you began sharing them with the
Mm.
world.
Yeah, it was so scary at first because I thought these messages would come through in my journals. And when I'd read them, it was like, wow, this is way too cheesy, way too positive. Like, it's so embarrassing, right? And I was terrified to share even a post with a friend, let alone the whole world. And this was 2017. I was deciding to leave my career in Silicon Valley. And at night, I would go to this cafe and just write for myself because it felt like there was something wanting to come out and I wanted to reconnect with myself. So I gave myself space to do that. And I would feel so alive. It'd be like 10 p.m. in San Francisco. And these words of beauty would just come through and flow through. And of course, at first, it was a bit more clunky because my mind was trying to edit and filter. But over time, I would start just trusting the intuitive hits that came through, and um, not sitting down just to write all the time. Sometimes it was walking in the park and these words would come and I'd put them in my phone, or right before bed, I already take my contacts out and I can't see, but these words would come. So I'm squinting at my phone and typing them as fast as possible. And it is like a muscle where the more you trust that voice, the more it will flow. And some people have this with writing, others will have it with singing or dancing or art. Everyone has their own way of connecting, and it is the way that makes you feel really alive and like you're not even aware. It's like you're in the flow state. So yeah, doing that, indulging that, not thinking it's a waste of time, because often, yeah, I judge myself like, well, what's the point of this? Even when I started sharing on Instagram, it was very timid. I'd write more about traveling and redefining work and more acceptable topics in mainstream society, like digital nomads. And then over time I felt myself going deeper into my spiritual journey, and almost allowing myself to follow that and become that and share that with the world. Because at first, there is this fear of being like too woo woo, or coming out of the spiritual closet, or being seen as airy fairy, because I do think a lot of the mainstream programming, if you watch films or even books, they'll label that whole thing as like quackery, or crazy, psychic, whatever reference is makes you look kind of airy and ungrounded. And I didn't want to be that, because it wasn't me. And I didn't have as many examples of spiritual people who are also intellectual and wise and connected and grounded and relatable and even young at that point. So it was like kind of finding my new identity in something I couldn't even label or see, because you're leaving the box, I guess, of the matrix and the old definitions. So coming back to the labels of artist and author, yes, those are still like 3D labels that help people understand what I do, what I am. But beneath that, there's something bigger, where it was this lifelong quest to make sense of the things in the world I couldn't even understand with the mind. So like the otherworldly, the spiritual, the magic in my being, the power of our consciousness, all of that was what I wanted to actually explore. But I didn't give myself permission, or I didn't really give validity to that path until after I started writing about it and exploring the books, and yeah, sharing it. And then slowly it opened up for me. Mm. Allowing yourself to be spiritual and letting go of the stereotypes, I guess, around that.
Allowing, right?
Mm.
Allowing the inner child to come through, right? There's just so many adults who are so serious, right? I mean, I was a former serious soul, thinking that
Yeah.
everything was so black and white. And right, you said before about being irritated and angry, or victim mindset. And it's really because we've lost our inner child. That inner child
Mm.
is, she or he or they are always there, like, hello, can we play now? Like, can we come back to
Yeah.
our paint, or our dancing, or whatever it is. And it's, I mean, even the school systems today, right? It's not encouraged to be expressive and individualistic.
Yep, exactly. It is about kind of not taking yourself as seriously again. But then the funny thing is, the inner child, it is playful, but it's also very wise. It's very connected to your ancient wisdom. And during this 8-day course, there's some meditations where you go into your 2-year-old self or your 1-year-old self's heart and being, and all these memories are coming up. And I actually remember some thought processes I had at that age, and it was actually very wise and connected. And it's like, wow, a 2-year-old was thinking that, or a 3-year-old was doing that. And we forget, I guess, as we grow up, how in tune we were. And I think a lot of the parents today are starting to see their children are coming in and saying things that are completely mind-blowing and wise, and we think it's just their imagination, but it's actually wisdom from their past lifetimes or the higher realms. And um, starting to see children as teachers also. They're here, many of them are old souls or highly evolved and high frequency beings. So yeah, it's turning everything upside down.
Yeah, really listening to them, right? Because that's also something with programming, right? That teachers or parents are wiser than their children, or authoritative over their children. And I always say kids are our greatest teachers. They're closer to spirit and the otherworldly realms than we are. And it's just magical. I definitely feel that too. More of them coming in more clear, right? With less ancestral trauma to work through. Like, many of us were like, we'll do that work, no big deal. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
I'll do that. I'll be the generational curse breaker.
Mm.
It's okay. And I'm noticing that too a lot more are, yeah, they're just pure channels. And just giving them the space again, right, to allow that the sage, right, the sage to come through. It's Yeah, it's just changing more rapidly by the day. I really feel it. Do you feel that as
Mm.
well?
Oh, yeah. And the momentum is shifting around the world. People will say, oh, it's getting worse. Look how scary it is. But actually, I'm seeing the opposite, where more and more people are starting to stand up and question things, or, starting to make a choice for what they stand for. And it had to be this way. I feel like it had to be the slow exposure of what's actually going on, because otherwise we would have had mass psychosis or confusion if everyone were to wake up at the same time. It's almost like we are learning to shift ourselves and heal our own traumas and fears and anchor more calm, because we need to be that for the rest of the world or our family and friends. And everyone's doing this in their own way. So it's all happening in perfect timing, even though many of us want it to happen sooner. I feel like the more I awaken myself and the more I shift, um, the more I can help, hold the awakening of the world. So I'm way more prepared now than I was a year ago, and everyone is way more prepared now, despite what we're going through, which is absolute insanity. Mm.
Yeah, I feel the same. It's almost like that darkest before dawn, right?
Yep.
I mean, it's the collective is going through a dark night of the soul, right? I mean, think
Yes.
of 2020 was the beginning of that, of the collective energy. And all the shadows have to come up, right? All of the fears, all of that as a society, as a collective, has to come up for us to heal it, for us to
Yeah.
move through it. And yeah, it always starts with us, right? It's like putting on our oxygen mask first
Uh-huh.
before others. And
Mm.
what would you say what would you say it means to live your soul essence, like to live
Mm.
your soul's purpose right now?
Mm. Beautiful. I feel like purpose comes with so many misconceptions, especially in the matrix, when we think purpose has to be a job, a role, and how you make money, or how you squeeze your passion into a tiny box of how you make money. But a lot of people are feeling like they can't see a future in the old world, in the way things have been, in the conventions of what exists today for themselves. But they feel also this pull of, there's so much more meaning in my life, and I do have this mission I'm here for. They just don't know exactly what it looks like. And um, for me, it is about trusting that you are, even feeling that discomfort is already a step towards, you could call it your purpose or your soul's alignment, your soul's essence. And the future, I believe, is more based in energy. So it's not about what you do physically, but it's actually about the frequency you hold and how you transmit that and how you work with that and your gifts coming online. So a lot of people are already living their purpose and doing it and expressing it in so many ways throughout their day, maybe through interactions with friends, or it's not your job title and role, but what you're doing when you speak to clients, or it's underneath the layers of what it appears to be. And it's often something that comes so naturally to you, that feels really fulfilling, or you feel super alive. It could be just your energy and following that. And a lot of people who are awakening, I mean, it's like, what do you think about every single day now? It's like your own awakening. It's, like the whole aspects of that journey. So a lot of our purpose is actually to follow our own awakening journey, to awaken ourselves, to come back to our heart, um, because that will be what helps the world later on. 7 billion people are going to awaken rapidly, in the grand scheme of things. And look where you are now, right? You're completely equipped. Your entire life experience has led you to the point where you're ready, um, to help serve and help others. But the first thing is to help yourself. And the more everything you're doing in your journey, even just sitting in the emotions and the painful cocoon, that is your purpose. It's going to come in such huge kind of service in the future. But yeah, we don't see it, or we often think we're not good enough or we're not doing enough. But part of that is letting go of the need to do or produce or to prove ourselves, from this place of lack, and instead just love ourselves and see the beauty in ourselves as we are. Because the more you love yourself and see yourself and give yourself the acceptance or validation you're searching for outside of you, the more you'll actually notice your uniqueness, your inner child, your gifts, what makes you really come to life. Yeah. And the more you'll trust that and allow it to shine.
Yeah, that uniqueness, right? And that being, right? More of receiving our own energy, right? We're in
Mm-hmm.
such a society that is really run, and I don't want to say toxic, but like unhealed masculine, right? Of the achievements, of the doing, that when we are healing, the being in it, like you said, is enough. It's part of that process where people are just like, well, I'm not doing enough. Like, I'm meant to be out in the world. And it's like, if you go out into the world with that energy, it's not going to be of service. And I always say too, it's when we sit in our homes, right? You're in your home, I'm in mine, and we're meditating, that energy is rippling out to the collective of us just being in our homes, right? That ripple
Mm-hmm.
effect is already happening on the quantum level.
Exactly. Oh, I love that so much. And even healing the victim mindset, shifting from fear to trust, from victimhood to empowerment, not just as a mental concept, but actually feeling that, embodying that, starting to make decisions or notice that your thoughts are leading towards trust more and more. That is such a massive energetic shift that it will affect the realities you create following that. It will affect your openness to your higher guidance and synchronicities. It will change your entire timeline. I've never experienced anything like this where it's like a before and after, like before in my entire life, I was such a victim and always in fear. And you don't think these thoughts are fear-based, but they are, because they're based in lack or limitation or low self-worth, lack of abundance, not feeling safe, not feeling like you are provided for and guided every step of the way. And the more you shift that, you start opening to a higher, not a hierarchy, but a higher frequency, another way it's possible to be and feel. And then the realities you experience on the other side are so different. They're so empowering. And you can only keep leaning into it because you see how much magic there is there and how held you actually are. And you were always held, you just didn't know it.
Yes, that victim to empowerment, it's magical. And I feel you, right? Like that before, you're like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't even recognize that person anymore. And that's where that grief and that, the death, the
Mm-hmm.
figurative death, the ego deaths come, and they come with every layer, right? Every up level,
Yep.
every time we create something or we do something that is
Mm-hmm.
more soul led, the shadows come up. And it's almost like the more prepared we are, right? It's like, I got this, I've done this before. It's just a different, a different door we're
Mm-hmm.
opening. But yeah, that there's nothing like the feeling of your empowerment, your dharma, right? Your soul's essence that was like, yes, we are going to come back to earth and have this. We're going to heal these traumas. We're going to teach on these lessons. We're going to be and have that energy, like you said before, of just what comes naturally to us, that really we've been doing for thousands of lifetimes.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing. Yeah. Yeah. What would you say? This will be our last question. What would you say would be like to trust that inner knowing above all? What would you say is a good first baby step to that, to trusting, because trust, right, is, you said before too, that trust, we're not taught to trust ourselves.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, it's not like you can just tell yourself, okay, I'm going to trust and let go. So the first step is actually to sit in the fire of your fear and doubt and look at it. Often we feel it, but we don't want to feel it really and see it. So it's like if you can take a journal and write down every single doubt you have, every single fear. If I take this step, then this will happen, this will happen, and go deeper into every layer of those fears, because there's often a deeper belief beneath the fear. So if you think, oh, if I do this, I'll fail, then underneath that, it's like this belief that I am unworthy, or I'm not good enough, or I'm not strong enough on my own. So look into every single one of those. And sometimes like you'll write it down and immediately you'll say, oh, that's silly. That's not true. If I fail, I'll become homeless and then I'll die and no one will like me and it's just the end. And, like you just go into your fear and then see how silly it is. But some of them will actually feel so real. And even if your brain is like, no, that doesn't have to be true, it feels real to you. So I highly recommend inner child work on that, and the work by Byron Katie. It's a free resource online. You can Google it, and it shows you how to turn each fear around and come up with a new belief or a new, almost like affirmation to reprogram your subconscious with. And the more you do this, the quicker you can actually flip your fear into what's more true or more empowering for you. And then the next thing is take the baby steps. So even if you have doubt and fear, still do it anyway in a small way. So it's not like, okay, go write a book tomorrow and quit your job. But it might be, what's the next exciting step for me? It might be just journal and write a post and share it with a friend or put it online somewhere. And the more baby steps you take, you start realizing, okay, I feel vulnerable, but it wasn't that bad. I also feel proud of what came out, and then you'll keep following the steps. The more you ask yourself, what's my highest excitement right now? And it could be something tiny, but do it and you'll see like, wow, that was something from my intuition guiding me and it led me to something bigger. So yeah, it's a muscle.
Yes, it's a muscle that, yeah, we're learning to strengthen again, right? Feel the fear and do it anyway. I love that you said, yeah, kind of sit in your fire and, yeah, feel into your shadows, right? Feel into the parts of you that have been hidden or cast aside by belief systems or people or family, and taking the baby steps, right? Because we're still human and we still have a nervous system. So sometimes those quantum leaps can be really rattling to our nervous system. So I love that you said, yeah, I love that. What's the next highest excitement for me in this now moment? That's right here, right now, and staying present in, yeah, in your soul essence, in who you are. So beautiful. So beautiful. Ashmi, oh my goodness.
We could talk for hours on this.
Yes. Oh, we definitely could. How can people work with you right now?
Yeah, so I share writing every day on Instagram at ashmi.path. And my book is available on my website. I'm also doing kind of one-on-one reflection sessions to help people who want specific answers, or they're going through any challenges and issues they want to move through. And it is a reflection of your highest potential and timeline. And sometimes we just need that little boost. But yeah, mostly I'm just writing and being, and I love just sharing my energy online. And it's such an honor to be able to do that and find people who are like, wow, I deeply resonate, or it's like my own journey reflected back to me. And it really shows me we're not alone in this journey, and so many more people will be joining very soon in the whole awakening. So yeah, my message to all is see the beauty and power in you, and know that millions are walking beside you, and you are here for a reason.
Oh, so beautiful. Chills.
Mm.
Absolutely beautiful. I know I look forward to your channeled messages, and I'm happy we've connected across the world.
Me too.
It's beautiful. The age of Aquarius has its perks, right?
Right?
Technology.
Yeah.
For all those the black sheeps, right?
Mm,
To find soul family, to find someone who understands or who just gets it.
mm,
And I feel you on that satisfaction that we receive for just being who we are, and that ripples out, and then people reflect that back to
mm,
us and our message. And it's just this beautiful collective ripple effect. So I'm
mm.
so happy that you have followed your soul's essence, and you've followed your nudges and your baby steps, because you're changing lives with your words and your art. And yeah, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Michelle. And you are also shining your light so brightly, and just a beautiful example of someone who has left this painful, soul sucking job and career that didn't resonate into your truth. And yeah, it's so beautiful. So thank you for sharing.
Hmm. So received. It's oh, so beautiful.